I was born in Westfield in 1951, and I've been living authentically and proudly so since my mid-20s. I was happy in the last 2 weeks to be part of a very small group of people that we will be enlarging with most likelihood, called the Westfield Pride Alliance. And we came together because we got information that led us to believe that our fair mayor was so willing to join us and allow us to raise the pride flag today. And I'll say more about Mayor Humison in a second. But before I start, I wanted to introduce you to the few members of the first ever Westfield Pride Alliance for all the work they did in 2 weeks time period to make this happen. So please welcome underneath the flag, Kristen Mello. And from Westfield State University, I don't know where she is, but I'm sure she'll wave wildly. Kathy McCulley Bradford. Kathy, way out over here upstairs. And my other male counterpart on the committee, the young and ever so handsome Christopher Clark. Where are you? Underneath the tree, Christopher Clark. Before we go any further, I want to make sure that we give an incredible shout out to two groups of people. First of all, everyone that here today that has a rainbow armband or neckband, they are your ambassadors. They offered to help us today, and they made sure the programs got handed out, and that makes sure everyone is possibly safe and distance and mask wearing. So ambassadors, thank you so much. And last of our large groups, the gay community at large would not have been anywhere if it wasn't for the millions upon millions of allies, straight allies and otherwise. So I want to make sure we thank those people, whether your son is gay or a child is a lesbian or whether your child is transgendering. Thank you for being an ally, because without your support, this action would not have taken place, not just in Westfield, but anywhere across the United States. One last group I want to make sure that we remember today, because we in Westfield have come a long way, obviously, and we live in a safe environment. I want to make sure that we remember today our many, many lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer brothers and sisters of color. They have experienced increasingly difficult times in their life for obvious reasons today. Along with that, I want to reach out and say everyone in the LGBT community from every nation and every ethnic race across the country and across the world who continue to suffer under the oppressive weight of sexism, homophobia, and racism. Please keep that in our thoughts today. I am so honored to introduce our first greeter to you today, our mayor, who, as many of you know, we've tried in the past to raise the gay flag, the pride flag, and finally, under this mayor's administration, we're able to say a very grateful thank you. So please give a warm welcome to our mayor, Don Humison.
Oh, that's better. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your City Hall. My name is Don Humison. I'm very pleased to be the mayor of the city of Westfield. And quite frankly, I just want to say a couple of words of welcome and also words of thanks. I'd like to thank the members of this committee that put this together this morning, starting with Councilor Mello, who approached our office a few weeks ago. And Dennis mentioned, I think he mentioned Melissa Dargan, Chris Clark, Kathy, and of course Kathy Bradford, and of course Dennis. I also want to say thank you to Michelle Moriarty in my office, Holly Lurgio in my office, and also Tommy Curran, who's going to help us with helped rig the flag so it'll fly. Believe me, without Tommy, none of that stuff works. I'm going to try to do this. I haven't seen everybody, but I want to recognize some of the councilors who are here. And I know I'll start over here with Councilor Cindy Harris. Oh, you got a list. Great. Thanks, guys. I saw Councilor Mike Burns. Councilor Rick Sullivan. Obviously Councilor Mello right here. Councilor Brent Dean. Brent, help me out. Did I miss anybody? Oh, Councilor Dave Flaherty. And then Dennis also gave me, let's see, a list with Mary O'Connell, former councilor. Mary. Jeff Goslin, former school committee member. Jeff. From our community development office, PJ Miller. Candidates for state representative, Ethan Flaherty. And Matt Garlow. I also want to recognize my former colleague when I was a state legislator, and now the person who holds my office, Senator John VELIS. And finally, talk about holding office as a dear friend and the previous occupant of the mayor's seat, former Mayor Brian Sullivan. Listen, that's all I'm going to say is just welcome to your City Hall. I'm very proud to be the mayor of the entire city of Westfield, and I know that although we may be different, our differences make us stronger together. And I'm very, very happy to be here with you as you celebrate today. Congratulations, and congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor.
I think you got your list. Now I'm going to go into the shade so do not burn to a crisp.
Thank you, Mayor Humison. And I want to remind all of us, like I said before, no ally necessarily was an ally the day before. And that happened because people like you took your heart with your full of compassion and your brain, and you talked to those people. So in my heart, I believe we are growing allies every day. Small ways count. So thank you, Mayor Humison. Next up, it's an incredible honor for me to introduce to you a very, very close friend of mine. Senator John VELIS is a unique individual. Clearly, his record stands on its own. But I gotta tell you a quick story that in 2014, I think it was, before John decided to even run for his first term as state representative, he put his committee together to help him achieve that. And they reached out to me, and I was old now, so for the first time in my life, I decided I have a right to do litmus tests. So John honored me, and he came down and he sat down with me. And let me tell you, I was so proud that he wanted an openly gay man to be an advisor and on his executive committee. And I'm so grateful to John for always making sure that happens. Shortly after that, because he is a straight man and does not necessarily understand all the intricacies that gay and lesbians and transgender and queer people in general have to live with, he asked me to put a group of LGBTQ people together to sit down with him and help explain the terms, explain our life, explain our difficulties. That has never happened to me in my life, and I'm so proud, John, that you did that. John, as you know, is not just our state senator. He is also, by very nature of his personality, he's a warrior. His last time, his third tour overseas was in Afghanistan, and while he was over there, he became a major in the U.S. Army. And John became like a brother to me. And like a brother, I worried every single day he was over there. Somewhat selfishly, I have to admit, because I knew that in John VELIS, we have a warrior working for us. And that is new to us here in Westfield. So please welcome heartily our dear Senator, John VELIS. Give me an elbow, big guy.
What an honor to be here. Just an absolute awesome occasion, and everybody should be so very proud. I want to tell a story about my time in law school. It was around 2008, and this opinion came. You know, law school is all about reading opinions and then analyzing them and then writing them. And I got assigned an opinion as part of the class, and it was the Goodrich opinion. As we all now know, the opinion that legalized, if you will, same-sex marriage in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I read through that opinion, and then I got to the bottom. The majority opinion, Justice Marshall. Concurring opinion, Justice GREANEY. And I remember looking at it and thinking to myself, wow, how cool is that? That the author of the concurring opinion sitting on the SJC is Westfield's own Judge GREANEY. Dennis mentioned my service to the country, and I just want to tell you a quick story about my time entering the military, the United States Army. There was this policy that was being vigorously debated. Don't ask, don't tell. And I immediately remember thinking to myself, wow, what an antiquated notion of humanity. I firmly believe in my heart of heart that every person, no matter your race, sexual orientation, fill in the blanks, should be proud of the fact that they are who they are. And never run from that, never be ashamed of that, and never anything with that. But anyway, back to that story. We had this vigorous debate about this policy. And I'll never forget this. Someone got up, and I don't even remember their name. I just know that it was a colonel in the military. And what this guy said at the end of the day is, stop this nonsense. Stop this conversation. Because when you get out there, when you get on the battlefield and stuff starts happening, remember one thing and one thing only. We all bleed the same color. That has been such an honor to be here, to witness it, to participate in it. Thank you, everybody who's here. I think this speaks volumes about this community. Thank you, Dennis, Kristen, all the organizers, all of the counselors. And it's just, I would say, a monumental day in the history of the city of Westfield. Thank you very much.
I'm doing due diligence here, trying to follow the COVID rules. Thank you, John, very much, brother. Our next couple of speakers are going to speak more to their voices from the community as opposed to greeting you. The first was a young man who, when we got together, he had the courage to reach out to our little group of organizers and asked to be able to come up and speak today. And of course, for the purposes of inclusion, we said yes. And I'm very proud to introduce him. He's got the most wonderful name I've ever heard. Please welcome Alexander CAMPURCIANI. Alexander. Welcome, brother.
Thank you to all the communities. Thank you to Don Humison. Thank you all so very much for letting me speak today. When I was a young kid, I remember the first time how hard it was for me to come out. I had to come out to my father, and I was nervous. I said, I'm not who I am. So I broke down, and it was a long time. Sorry, that's much better, isn't it? Sorry. So I broke down, and my father said, why didn't you tell us who you were? I said, crying, I said, because I was afraid you weren't going to love me. My father looked at me surprised, and he said, "No matter who you are, no matter what you are still my son, and I will love you no matter who you are. It doesn't matter. I will always love you because you are my son." What I've been taught over the years, being part of LGBTQ communities, is it's not just about you coming out as who you are. It's what comes from your heart. You need to be able to believe in your heart of who you truly are. If you can't believe that, then nobody else will be able to stand with you and fight with you to say, "I will represent you. I will help you get through your time of coming out. Well, let's work on this together. Let's start a community." One of my biggest dreams and goals, if I may, I want to try to create a community action youth program for anyone who wants to come by. I want to be able to help those who are struggling, those who are having a hard time of coming out as being gay. I know what that experience is like. Back in high school, I know what it was like. It was not good. I was also bullied because when I came out, they said you should never come out in high school. I fought that, and I represented myself. The first time I went to Pride in Northampton, that first time that you walk down Main Street in drag or whatever you decide to dress up as, you feel something. You feel loved. You feel like that a community is supporting you. If I can make that happen, I will do everything in my power to try to help those who are struggling in a community to make them feel better about themselves so they can reach out to their children and their children's children. And if I am not that person to do so, then I know somebody else will, because I am a leader. And if you want to follow me in my footsteps as coming out as being an openly gay man who is trying his hardest to make what's better, then please do. I am always willing to hear your story. I'm willing to listen to your voices. You know me. Most of you know me. And I will never, ever turn a blind eye away. Like I said, I want to say thank you so much for listening to what I had to say. You are all my family. And no matter what happens, no matter what you see me as, whether you see me as a masculine male or whether you see me as a drag queen, I will always love you for who you all are. And even if you can't love me for who I am as the person dressing in drag, you could still love yourself. Because to quote what RuPaul would say from RuPaul's Drag Race, if you can't love yourself, how in the heck are you gonna love somebody else? Can I get an amen up in here? Thank you so much. God bless you all, and may the pride flag stand proud, and may we never have to fight about our gay rights ever again. Thank you.
Talk about courage, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think I could have done that at that age, and I think we found our first new Pride Alliance member. This kid has guts, he's got heart, and I thank him. And what a speaker. I think I see politics in his future. John, you better watch out. Our next voice is another voice from the community, and I'm so proud to bring her up to the microphone. She is Rana LYTLE, and she is the advisor to the Queer Straight Alliance at Westfield State University, and I'm so proud to have her here today. Rana, please come up. Thank you, sweetie.
I had to write some of my words down because, as my students who are here in the audience know, sometimes I riff and go into stories. First thing, I want to thank the Westfield Pride Alliance Committee, Mayor Don Humison, distinguished guests, and the community of Westfield for the honor of speaking to you on this momentous occasion. Today is important to so many of us. Today is the 5th anniversary of the Supreme Court ruling in Oberfell Obergefell, excuse me, versus Hodges. And it is the first pride flag raising for Westfield. Yes, applaud that. 5 years ago, when I was engaged to the love of my life, I lived in Massachusetts. I didn't think about leaving Mass, but I always had that list of states in which I could not go to because I knew my wife and I would not be cared for or respected as a married couple. And on this day, 5 years ago, the justices came back with a ruling that stated that we, as members of the LGBT community, as members and citizens of these United States, have a right and a privilege to get married in any state, to have our love respected and cared for. I wish I could say that that was the last day that we had to fight. That we as members of the LGBTIQA community could stop fighting for our rights that day, but that was not the case. That is not the case today. We will continue to fight. And as Westfield raises not just the pride flag, but the Progress Pride flag, Westfield states that they are open to hearing, to understanding, and to making change, not just in this fair city, but in our Commonwealth and in our country. To my colleagues at Westfield State University, to my students, to my alums that are standing here, those that were raised in this town, this is a start for change. This is a start to a conversation. This is a start. And I will help you lead that conversation, and I will help you make that change. I'm just down the road at the college or in Springfield. We are here, and we want to make this a greater place for all people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronan, so much. I appreciate your comments. Before we bring up our most honored guest today, who will join the Pride Alliance in raising the flag for the first time in Westfield's history, I want to say a couple other things. I had the great fortune of being married to my partner of a decade 1 month ago today. Thank you. We chose to go to our second adopted state of Delaware to get married, primarily because of the COVID problem. In Westfield, I was so blessed, we were so blessed. Of course, Michael's working today because he's got to pay for the beach house. But 3 people had offered to marry us. And I just want to give a personal thank you to those 3 people. The first one is John VELIS's uncle, Peter VELIS, who's the former Republican state representative from Westfield. He's not here today, but John, please give him my personal thank you again for offering to marry Michael and I. Our second person who offered to marry us was the former mayor of Springfield and current governor's counselor, Mary Hurley. We are good friends, and she was so dear to offer to marry us. And another great advocate for women's rights, by the way. And the third person, of course, and the greatest of them, in my opinion, was our honored guest today, the incredibly honorable Justice John GREANEY. In the hearts of Michael and I, being offered to marry us and marrying us is not a far difference. We chose to hide down in Delaware and get married in a very quiet ceremony. They wouldn't allow even witnesses or family or friends there. But we were okay with that because through my life, my family has grown. As you can all see, you're all part of my family, and I so appreciate it. And welcoming Justice GREANEY here today, much of what I would have said has already been said. But to me personally and to the LGBTQ community, we have a superstar, a rock star in this man. He is a St. Mary's graduate, a Westfield native, and he's legendary. Not just to, and he's a rock star and a hero, not just to the local LGBTQ community, but nationally. What he did when that marriage decision was formed in 2003 was unheard of in its day. There were some civil unions going on at the time, but marriage was not even being discussed. And in a stroke of a pen, by a 5-4 decision, the same exact number that then 12 years later, and the anniversary date today, passed in the United States Supreme Court the right of every U.S. citizen to marry the person they love. He changed the world. It took incredible courage. I see that same type of courage in Alexander, by the way. John GREANEY is an incredible man, one of the most learned men I have ever met, and one of the kindest and most humble people you're ever going to see. So please welcome today the great Honorable Justice GREANEY. Come on up. You're going to come up. He doesn't even want to come up. Come up, brother. I'm so proud to call him friend, Justice. Good morning. I tell you. He's going to say just a couple of words, but the reason we asked him here today, because we wanted him to do the honor for the first time in Westfield's history of raising the Progressive Pride flag over our city. It'll fly over the city for the next week, and this will be the beginning. As our committee deforms and reforms, the Pride Alliance will grow. I can see many things happening, and we're hoping next year this will be not just a week, but a month-long set of activities. So please welcome your Justice GREANEY.
I'll be very brief, but this is a great day for the city of Westfield and for me and for everyone who calls themselves a neutral, detached, progressive person. I've seen many flags, and you've seen many flags raised throughout history. The flag of surrender at Yorktown, the flag over Iwo Jima by the Marines. But I think this counts as one of the most momentous occasions on flag raising in our history, because it reflects the lack of discrimination in our city, the progress that we have made, and the progress that we are going to continue to make to eliminate some of the barriers that not only same-sex couples and same-sex people see, but others of all different ethnic and racial backgrounds. So I join with everybody in celebrating this day. I thank you, Dennis, and your committee for inviting me. When we did this in 2003, 4 of us, it was 4-3. I never thought it would sweep the nation the way it did. I never thought it would persuade the United States Supreme Court to do what we did. But finally, everyone got on board and did the right thing. So thank you and have a good day.
Justice I also want to add that when Justice GREANEY penned that decision in Massachusetts, he also wrote what's known as the concurrence. What little legal knowledge I have, that concurrence is what then allowed other states across the nation to use that language and to use that decision to lead to the U.S. Supreme Court's decision that we're celebrating as an anniversary here today. So thank you, Justice GREANEY. Before we raise the pride flag, I'd like to ask our ambassadors today to come up to the flag area and form a honor guard. And after the flag goes up, I have a request from Justice Greaney. If the speakers from today could please join us by these stairs. He wants to get a few pictures. So please, speakers, please, after the flag is raised, please come up to the right-hand side of the building. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Justice Greaney will now raise for the first time in the history of Westfield the Progressive Pride flag. Thank you all for being with us today. Let me be the first to say to you, Happy Pride.
Happy Pride!
Thank you, Justice, so much. Also, in closing, I want to make sure we all have a chance. If you look around you, this did not happen just because of today. There are many elected officials and allies in the crowd. I can quickly think of Brian Sullivan and Rick Sullivan, Mary O'Connell, so many people who quietly and steadfastly encompassed and were inclusive in their administrations and their work on the city council to make sure that the LGBTQ community was represented and talked to with respect. So also thank you all. Brian, Mary, Jeff Goslin, who was the first elected gay official in Westfield, a city councilor, thank you all. And Don Humison, thank you too.